Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome to this new grammar lesson. Today we will talk about comparing with adjectives and adverbs. Last lesson we talked about adjectives and adverbs, and we said that an adjective is a word that describes a noun and sometimes a pronoun, whereas an adverb is a word that describes a verb, an adjective, or even another adverb. We also said that an adjective gives you extra information like what kind, which one, how many, or how much. We also talked about proper adjectives and predicate adjectives, and we said that a predicate adjective, it is formed from a name of a country like Australian, Egyptian, Saudi, and a predicate adjective is an adjective that comes after a linking verb in a sentence. And we also said that the adverb can come in many places in a sentence, and the answer questions like when, or where, or how, or to what extent the action happens. We also said that a and an and the are considered adjectives. And also we said that most of the adverbs end in ly, but not all of them. And we gave examples like the word always, and the word not, and the word soon. We also said that adjectives and adverbs, they have a common name, which is modifiers. Both of them are considered modifiers. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to identify the 3 degrees of comparison using modifiers, which are positive, comparative, and superlative, and how can we form them from modifiers that consist of 1 syllable, modifiers that consist of 2 syllables, and modifiers that consist of more than 2 syllables. Let's get started here. Adjectives and adverbs have 3 degrees of comparison. The first one is called the positive, second one is called comparative, and the third one is superlative. When you talk about one item in a sentence, or when you describe an item in a sentence, you use the positive modifier. Let's have a look at the table here. She is strong. The word strong here is an adjective, describes the subject of the sentence, which is she. So this is a positive modifier. Similarly, the word forcibly, it's also a positive adverb because it tells you how she pitches the ball. What about comparatives? Let's see. She is stronger than I am. Stronger here is an adjective, or let's call it a modifier that describes or compares she, the subject of the sentence, to I, the other pronoun in the sentence. So stronger is a modifier that compares she to I as pronouns. Second sentence in comparatives also says she pitches the ball more forcefully than I do. The adverb more forcefully compares the way she pitches the ball to the way I pitch the ball. So it's a comparative modifier. Let me recap. Comparative modifiers, they compare to items, to nouns, to pronouns, to things in one sentence. What about the superlative? Let's see the sentence here. She is the strongest of everybody. In this sentence here, the word strongest is a modifier that is comparing, or that compares she to the rest of the community, or to the other people, all of the other people, everybody else. That's why strongest here is a modifier that is considered in the superlative degree. It's superlative because according to the meaning of the sentence, she is superior to the rest of the people. The next sentence, she pitches the ball most forcefully of all of us. In this sentence here, most forcefully is a modifier that compares how she pitches the ball to all of the other people. So let me recap. Positive modifiers, they talk about one subject. Comparative modifiers, they compare two nouns, two pronouns, or two items. Superlative is when you talk about more than two. Let's see how do we form the comparative and superlative. If the modifier is one syllable, you simply need to add an ER or EST to one syllable. As you can see here, tall, taller, tallest. So tall is positive, taller is comparative, and tallest is superlative. Same thing with low, lower, and lowest. What about two syllable modifiers? you add an ER or EST to most two-syllable modifiers. When those ending sound awkward, use the words more, less, quite, quieter, quietest, quickly, more quickly, most quickly, because it's awkward to say quicklier. It doesn't make sense. Suddenly, less suddenly, and least suddenly. What about modifiers that consist of more than two syllables? Yes, for adjectives or adverbs that consist of three or more syllables, we use more or less or most or least. For example, magnificently is a positive adverb. More magnificently is a comparative adverb. Most magnificently is a superlative adverb. Easily, less easily, and least easily. Be careful, sometimes you will need to change the spelling of the word when you add an ER or EST. For example, big becomes bigger, so you have to double the last sound, g sound, because this word is one syllable and it ends with a stress. Similarly, the word pretty, prettier, prettiest, when the word or the modifier ends with a Y, you need to check the letter before the Y. If it's a consonant, you change it into I and then you put the ER. And similarly, prettiest, you change the Y into IEST. And here's another activity. You need to form the degrees of comparison of these modifiers. Some of them are adverbs, some of them are adjectives. For example, light, lighter, lightest. What about soon? Stop the video and think of the answers. Here are the answers. Please check your answers and give yourself a mark out of 10. Are some irregular comparison modifiers. Let's have some activities. Exercise 1. Writing sentences. Write the comparative and superlative forms of the following modifiers. Use each word in a sentence, and you may use a dictionary to check your spelling if you want. Example: bossy, bossier, and bossiest. Bossy, the word that ends is a modifier that ends with a Y, so to make it a comparative, you're gonna change it into IER, and superlative, you change the Y into IEST, and you put it in a sentence. Any sentence makes sense. Let me read the words for you. Calm, tired, furious, nervous, tiny, often, gracefully, fragile, smoothly, greedy. Number 1, calm, you can say calmer and calmest. For example, class 8A is the calmest class in the school. That is superlative. Class 8C is calm. Class 8I is calmer than 8A. That's superlative, positive, and also comparative. Stop the video and think of your answers. Here is the answer. Check your answers and give yourself a mark out of 30. 1 mark for the positive, 1 mark for the comparative, and 1 mark for the superlative. Now let's go to the second activity, proofreading sentences. Proofread the sentences below for incorrect comparative and superlative forms. Correct each incorrect form. If a sentence is correct, write C. Number 1. Racers, called mushers, and their dog teams race in the beautiful land you imagine. Is this sentence correct? Think. Exactly. It is incorrect. Why? Because this sentence should be in the superlative degree. Beautiful should be most beautiful. Now stop the video, do the activity on your own, and then check your answers and give yourself a mark out of 10. Here is the answer to exercise number 2. And here we come to the end of today's lesson. Today we learned about comparing with adjectives and adverbs. We learned about the degrees, positive, comparative, and superlative degrees. We learned also how to form the one-syllable modifiers in the comparative or superlative, and also we learned how to form the two-syllable modifiers and the modifiers with more than two syllables in the comparative or superlative.